Anyway,
That's
guys, welcome back to a new episode this week. Like always, you got me, Henry Portillo, and then you got my
Sebastian, his
as always,
co-host.
yes sir. And today we actually got our first guest. This man, I promised him as soon as we get everything set up that we'll bring him in to the HQ, and we did. We got a good. This guy is a mentor. He helps me train jiu-jitsu, and he's just a good dude. And I would like to introduce Daniel, bro. Say what's up.
What's up, y'all?
Yes, sir. Yeah, like I said, I had a conversation. I've been knowing Daniel for I think almost 3 years now. We're talking about that off air, and we grapple, and he's a brown belt under Juan Tatum, and he's a fucking beast, and he, obviously. But we had a conversation a while back. He trains open mats on Friday, and I feel like you and I had a good conversation, and that made me think like, oh man, it'll be a good idea to bring it in. I spoke with Sebastian, and he's all in for it. So here you are, man.
No, yeah, always looking forward to meet new people. Henry knows a lot of people, and we also, before we start actually recording, you guys were talking about like you're a teacher.
Yeah. I taught 6th grade the year before last, and this past year I taught 8th grade. At the end of the year, it was a chaotic situation, but yeah, I've been a teacher.
And also, how long have y'all two known each other from? I know it's from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, just from jiu-jitsu. We've been for almost 3 years. In June will be 3.
Holy shit, you've been doing jiu-jitsu for 3 years, dude?
Yeah.
June 6 will be. Yeah.
Shit.
But I would say we really only started forming like a friendship. Like we were acquaintances.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah,
at the gym is kind of cool, but
Yeah.
probably just in the last few months, probably like the last 4 or 5 months. When I started teaching a class on Friday evenings,
Yeah.
and it kind of just became like almost like a separate thing.
Yeah.
Because Juan teaches pretty much every class, and he's got his own style of doing it, and I have my own style of doing it. And so I asked him, it was probably like around January, right?
Yeah.
That I asked him if I could have my own class again, because I used to teach kids classes. I used to teach adult beginner classes. And I was just like, yo, dude, I want to take that Friday spot. We used to have a guy who taught Friday evenings, and then he fell out whenever COVID started.
Mhm.
So I was like, dude, I want that Friday spot. I kind of just wanted to like, I don't know, feel like I had a way to give back to the community that had like given so much to me, and I know that, like I said, my style of coaching, my style of teaching is a lot different than Juan. So I just kind of wanted to maybe give everybody a different feel of jiu-jitsu.
No.
So my question is, first, Daniel, is like, how long have you been focusing? So some people focus on mental health more importantly, I would say, like as we were teenagers or a little younger, or we were taught like, oh, get over it. It's nothing. You'll get over it at some point.
Yeah.
But what about when, because there's always that point of time where we actually focus on our mental health and how important it is. And when was that for you?
I would say the first time that like I recognized, because I feel like I've experienced anxiety, social anxiety, depression, all these things since I was a small child.
Mm-hmm.
Like it started very young in my life, and I had no understanding of it. I didn't know how to articulate it. I didn't have that vocabulary to say this is depression,
Yeah.
to be able to define what I was experiencing. So I would say probably in like, it's probably like 2013 maybe. I was probably like 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I had started college in my first semester. I was like, it was terrible. I was super depressed. I was living on campus. My grades were terrible. I was playing video games like nonstop, and then I would just play video games and then lift weights and then go do jiu-jitsu, and like school was the last thing on my mind. And I lost my scholarship because my grades were so bad. It was like it was a disaster, dude.
Yeah, dude.
I had no idea what I was even doing there. And then I actually ended up taking a pretty high dose of psilocybin mushrooms winter break in between my first and second semester of college, and that like totally changed my perspective. But I still didn't understand why or like what really was going on with that. But it made me a lot more positive, and so I changed my major to something that I enjoyed a lot more, which was anthropology. Before that I was a science major, and it was just like crippling. But
I feel you.
yeah, dude,
I feel you on that
I
shit.
took calculus, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah, fuck
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
do algebra.
Yeah.
But anyways, and so I started dating this girl because it was like I became super confident. Like taking the mushrooms like totally changed my perspective on
And
life.
it was just
everything.
one dose, and that's what changed you.
Yeah, dude, but it was a lot.
I'm about to
Like
take
it was
this
like
shit.
it was like 5+ grams.
Cause like me, like I have no idea that world, like that area, so I don't act like I know. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
5 milligrams?
5 grams.
5 grams, that's a lot.
That's a lot, bro.
For shrooms.
It's a lot,
A
bro. 5
lot.
grams.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
also
yeah.
said what type of shrooms are these? Is there so many
psilocybin.
different?
So that's the if people say like, oh, I took some shrooms, that's the type of mushroom.
That's the type of
Yeah, yeah.
mushroom.
Well-
That's the hallucinogenic compound.
Yeah, because I'm gonna put it out there. I don't care, but I've taken shrooms, and
Yeah, I
but it
was
was
like,
on-
is this safe?
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. But
It's
I've
candid,
taken,
man.
I've taken shrooms too, and I mean, I don't know, it didn't really hit me. But anyways, yeah,
So it, like I said, it really helped with my depression a lot.
yeah,
And then I met this girl, and we were dating for a little while, and that relationship was like, it was great. And then probably like the summer of 2013, so it was like my second semester of college was in the spring. We dated the whole time. That summer, we ended up breaking up, and it was like terrible for me, dude.
Yeah.
It was like my first real relationship.
yeah,
And I was broken, I was broken. And so I would say in the months following that is when the first time I took my mental health seriously, just because like I had already experienced depression and
Yeah.
anxiety, but it wasn't anything that I felt like I could talk about or even begin to know how to treat, so yeah, I started taking it really seriously, and I dove deep into meditating, and that
Really?
that-
Meditation?
that turned things around so much for me. But then I lose the habit. Like I take it for granted. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'll meditate consistently day after day,
right.
start to feel amazing,
Yeah.
and then I take it for granted. I start to get into other stuff, and it's like I push it on the back burner.
Yeah.
It's like I forget how I got to the good place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started a really, dude, I was in a place where I was basically meditating 24/7.
You're just in that Zen state, bro.
Yeah.
So how's that
yeah.
process of meditating? Because when I hear meditating, of course, like if I think of meditating, my first thought is like sitting crisscross and just focusing on nothing. But like I wanted to dive deep, because when I told Henry to text you like, hey, what would he enjoy to talk about? Because that's what we care about, is like the guest passion, what they want to talk about.
Yeah.
And like, so meditating is like what for you? I'm assuming it's different for everybody. Everybody has their own ways of meditating.
Yeah.
I would guess so.
Yeah.
So how was yours? You just sat, listened to music, or?
There were times I would listen to music, like just some like
Mhm.
Zen meditation playlist on YouTube or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it was just trying to focus on my breathing. And I learned a couple different techniques from different sources. One of them was anytime like I focus on my breathing, so I'll focus on like from when the inhale begins to when it ends, focus on the pause, focus on when the exhale begins to when it ends, and then like I'd count my breaths.
Oh,
So
shit.
that's one. That's also one, right? And then two, and then
Yeah.
count to 10, and then start back down at one, or even count back down.
Wow.
And anytime that like I notice myself start to think, then I say thinking, and I bring it back to the breath.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
And
that
it's-
sounds so difficult.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
super difficult.
It's very difficult. And yeah, I would recommend if people wanted to start meditation to find like a good guided meditation, so that you have like a voice that's like telling you,
There's like
walking you through the
Yeah.
process step by step, because for like it's very difficult to learn on my own. I ended up listening to a guided meditation by a guy named Sam Harris.
Oh, Sam, I know he's Sam
Yeah,
Harris.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he has really good, I don't agree with all of his opinions necessarily, but
Yeah.
his guided meditations are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and just kind of entering that space where it's like, okay, I need to stop. I needed at the time to not identify with my thoughts. And this is something that I frequently run into, where if I feel too much pain or sadness or anxiety or whatever it is, I identify with that, and then I feel shame because I'm like, oh man, I should be doing better, I should be feeling better, blah blah blah. And it's like I take myself too personally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I identify and I try to define myself with how I'm feeling. So it's like, oh man, I'm depressed. Well, I am depressed, right? Rather than I am experiencing depression. That's a totally different way to look at it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like noticing that I am not really the thoughts that occur in my head. I am actually that which is aware of the thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
when you're saying that, how I'm taking it is like taking in like different emotions, anxiety, depression, like those feelings. It just depends how you kind of perceive it in your own mind, really.
Yeah.
It's like how you said earlier, as like saying I am depressed, I'm experiencing depression is just like almost like in my head, how I think of it like that is like a temporary thing. Like you're going to get over it at some point and it's going to be better. I'm guessing with that terminology, like how you phrase that, that's the goal. It's like at some point it's going to go away and then I'm going to be in a better state of mind at some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like I have to detach myself from it in order to move on from it. You know what I mean? If I say like I am depressed, it's like that's a hole that I can dig myself in and stay there, you know? Or if it's like I am experiencing depression, well, that opens up the entire universe because I can experience anything.
Yeah. Oh,
You
shit.
know what I mean? I
That's
can
crazy.
experience anything.
Yeah.
Right now I'm experiencing depression, but I am that which is consciously aware. I am the space through which all these different stimuli and all these different feelings are like coming into being, right? And I'm becoming aware of them. I'm not depression, you know? I'm not the emotions that I feel. I am just that which is I'm feeling them. I'm experiencing them.
I mean, fuck, man, that's a good way of thinking of it. That actually, when you said that, it made me think of this this quote. I remember I saw this quote on Instagram or whatever, where this guy was coming up to Buddha and asking him, I was like, I feel sad, or like I want to be happy. He's like, that's where you fell. He said, you have to change your mindset and say, I am happy. Like, I don't know. That's it's just, I don't know. It just made me think about that. Like, he was just saying it's all like the mindset of like,
Yeah.
you know, like of just changing your mindset, of how you perceive things, how you see things, you know?
Yeah. I had this girl that I dated, but we were really good friends before we dated. We probably shouldn't have even dated. It made the friendship weird. You know what I mean? But
there's always that one, like your friends,
Yeah.
and you're like, do I want to
plus,
cross
like
that line?
I swung way too late, bro. Like we worked together, and then like we had been talking for a while. Like
Yeah.
we worked at a restaurant, and we would always stay after our shift and like eat together
Yeah.
and talk and just like chat it up, got to know each other super well. And it was like one summer, the whole summer we were just chilling like that. And I didn't make a move. I ended up like sleeping with other girls that we worked with. And I was just like, I was a mess, bro.
Yeah.
And really, I was just scared. Really, I was just
No,
scared of
that's
being
how it is,
vulnerable.
yeah.
So I was like, hey, I'm just going to sleep with all these other girls and put aside my actual feelings because that's scary, bro. Like, what if that doesn't work well, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, she couldn't trust me. But then we ended up dating after like months later. And it was just like, yeah, it was. Anyways, back to the happiness thing, right? She said, she was like, I was like, man, I just feel like I just want to be happier. And she was like, I don't understand why happiness is the goal. Like happiness is just an emotion, blah, blah, blah. And so I was thinking about that and I was like, okay, so happiness actually shouldn't be the goal. What should be the goal is like peace, right? To be at peace with whatever emotion comes in, because happiness is a fleeting thing. It is a fleeting thing. You can't, it's the same thing with depression. It's like, you cannot be that. Because as soon as you identify as that, well, then the next time that you don't feel happy, then it's like, oh, well, this isn't me, blah, blah, blah. You're not going to deal with it in a healthy way, I don't think.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying that is because, like, no one in this world will feel happy 24/7.
Nah,
like,
dude.
how you say it like that, like, oh, I'm experiencing, or I am happy, is like how you identify, how you were mentioning earlier, identifying yourself with that emotion. And the reason why I bring that up is because there's a lot of people out there that think like that they think a lot of why they're feeling such an emotion, and how I take it is like there shouldn't be a reason to question that. Like it is an emotion that you're experiencing, but like focusing on the why behind it, I feel like it makes it 10 times worse. What do you think of that?
I think I agree. Like it's like you shouldn't ruminate on it, but also yeah, I agree, because I think that sometimes that just like helps you dig the hole even deeper. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're telling yourself a story, you know, rather than letting yourself just like experience the emotion and then let it go and then move on. You're telling yourself a story, and it's like this story of how I got here. It's like I'm telling myself this narrative that this is what led me to here, and then this is like the trajectory that my life path is on. You know what I mean? And that's a very difficult thing to change if like you get that story like really rooted into your mind. Like,
oh, dude,
you know what I
that's
mean?
bad.
Yeah, dude. And that's the place that I was like, I've been like off and on pretty depressed for a couple of years, honestly. Right. And it's only really over the last like few weeks that I've kind of come out of that. But I was telling myself a story, dude. You know,
dude,
I was telling myself a story of like how I ended up there, rather than just like, hold on, that's not here anymore, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like all that stuff that happened that was terrible at the time is no longer happening in any way.
Yeah, what
I've set the boundaries.
Yeah,
it's behind me.
It's like,
you know,
it's like a fucking like a movie just playing in your mind. When you should just like take that shit out, because like
it's that how did I end up here? Right? And that's what it is. It's that how did I end up here, bro?
That's crazy.
How did I end up? Man, I feel terrible. How did I end up here? Oh well, let me think about it. And then that's all you do is think, how did I end up here? And you think that that's solving the problem. It's like, nah, bro. The only way to get through it is like to feel it, to really, really feel it. Because thinking about it and feeling it are not the same thing,
bro.
Yeah, because like when you like, what it is like trying to figure out that story, how you got there is kind of, I feel like it also brings into the thought of like regret, or I made a bad decision, or I could have done something a lot better. And just also like that hole you're digging yourself into is like, oh, I wish I did this instead of this. I wish I did this instead of that. Yeah. And what benefits, I understand meditation helps you get through these emotions, but like the pros, like day to day, you just feel a lot better tackling the day. When you meditate, you just feel a lot better. Yeah, the pros of meditation.
Yeah, I feel like it lets me have that like reset button. That reset button is available at any time. Like if I'm meditating as a habit, then like I said earlier, like there was a time in my life where I was basically in a constant state of meditation. Like walking around, I was focusing on my breathing. If I was interacting with somebody, there was still like, I don't want to say I was detached, because that sounds, you know, but I wasn't so invested in how everything was gonna go. You know. Like I knew that there was this constant reset button where I was like, oh, I could just actually just breathe and walk away from this, or breathe and, you know, feel totally differently and just move on from this emotion that I'm experiencing right now.
You said, you accidentally said earlier, you said detach. I mean, I feel like, I mean, that's a good way of saying it, really, because it's just like that quote, like if you detach yourself from like everything else, you're just that's ultimate freedom. You're not worried about anything else. You're just worried about like you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's a cool state of mind. That's something I feel like everyone should try to achieve, you know?
Yeah. I had another point when we were talking about the stories, the narratives that led us there. I think that typically in my life, whenever I have like experienced like a negative emotion frequently, like if I am in a state of depression and that's like something that I'm constantly feeling throughout most of my days, that is because I'm ruminating on the story of what got me there. And the reason that I'm stuck on that story is because I was attached to the outcome of something, and I had been telling myself a different story before that, and it didn't go how I wanted it to. Yeah, and it didn't go how. Yeah. That fucks with you. I think it's that like we're naturally story builders and storytellers as human beings. That's like how we make order of the world. Right. And so you order your world by telling yourself a story and like putting yourself on this path and like this is how this is gonna go. And then whenever it doesn't go that way, then that's typically whenever I have gotten stuck. And I'm like, well, where did I go wrong on that path? Yeah. And I have to like try to retrace my steps. And it's like, bro, don't retrace your steps. Just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going.
Fun question. Just I would like to, I asked him when he did shrooms, what did you experience? Like, I understand like a whole turning point, but what the fuck did you see? You don't have to share if you don't want to.
Because I'm good on time, dude. I'm down to keep it rolling.
We keep it rolling, Henry? What's the time on that shit?
55.
55.
I'm cool to keep it rolling. You know, I feel like it's going well. Yeah. The first time I was 18, and my buddy, who will remain nameless, he ended up getting a lot of mushrooms. Like he got a half ounce before. He had done it once before, and he had done 2 grams. And so a half ounce, like 14 grams, and it was a lot. Like they say, like a heroic dose is 5 grams, right? And so I'm pretty sure that's how much we took, but it wasn't obvious because he didn't really weigh it out. He just like took a small handful and was like, we're going to save this, and then we're going to split the rest of all of this. And I was like, okay, you know.
How do you authenticate shrooms? I mean, that might be a dumbass question, but how do you know you're legit getting shrooms?
You can tell by the way they look. There's not other mushrooms that really look
they're
very distinct in appearance.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, how do you fucking make sure?
It tastes like ass, bro.
Yeah. They're very distinctive in
Okay.
appearance. Yeah, like you could tell. And this sounds crazy, dude. But I feel like if you're in the presence of psilocybin mushrooms, just being in the presence of them for me, or knowing that somebody has them or that I might do them in the next couple hours, I already start to feel like a different vibe. You know what I mean? Like, man, I've had some crazy coincidences like with mushrooms involved. Damn. Not even on mushrooms.
You still be doing them? I'm
gonna do them again soon. I haven't done it in a little while, but the first time, like I said, I took probably like 5 or 6 grams. It was way too much.
That's a lot.
And that's where the keyword heroic comes from. Is that's a shit.
Well, because you're gonna follow, like you're gonna face some demons, bro. You know, like it's like
you face your inner self, like everything. Like Like Mike Tyson talks about it.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested in hearing how you guys put that in perspective, because like it's a lot to like. I feel like it might be a lot to describe, and that's why I'm interested.
I'll tell this one, and then I'll briefly touch on 2 other mushroom experiences that I had, because those were also very intense. So the first one, my buddy, we were at his parents' house at the time, and they were asleep downstairs. And we were upstairs in his game room, and the game room was really big, and it had like one of those wraparound couches that kind of went around one wall and then on the other. And then he had a love seat over here, and then there was like these double doors, almost like they didn't have, you know, like they don't have doorknobs in it or anything. They just kind of open. And so this motherfucker, bro, he starts to feel it, right? The first like 45 minutes, I just get like a body high. I'm like, this is great, bro. This feels awesome. You know, it's not really intense. It's just like, I feel awesome. Is this how it is? Is this mushrooms? This is great. Yeah. And then he's like, oh man, this is starting to be a lot, bro. I think I need to go to my room and be alone. And I was like, what? You know, like, bro, I'm in your parents' house. I have no idea how this is about to go. You know what I mean? Like, and he's like, yeah, man, this is a lot. This is too intense. I got to go. And so he leaves and he turns the light off, bro. Like, he turns the light off in the game room. And so I'm alone in this room. Like I said, it's a large room.
It's a big ass room.
Yeah, dude. It's probably like 2 or 3 of this room, right? Oh, shit. Yeah. It's a large room. And I'm like, okay. You know, I'm by myself now. I remember specifically looking through those double doors, and there's a slit right in the middle, and one of the lights that was like on the back of his neighbor's house was like pointing right through the slit, and I started to stare at it, and it started to grow to the point where like I almost passed out, like I almost fell backwards. Dude, it was intense. And so then I don't really remember how the really intense effects started, but I remember sitting on one end of the wraparound couch. I was over here, and the rest of the couch wrapped around. And I remember I started to hear like whispering almost, right?
Oh hell no,
bro! But I wasn't afraid though. I wasn't afraid. And I started to hear like whispering almost, and then I looked, and I could see clearly. I don't know if they were people or if they were other things, other beings on the rest of the couch.
Oh shit!
Like, and they were just talking to each other. Like, I wasn't even there. Like, I wasn't
shadowy
even there.
figures, or like you could picture them how they look.
The Conjuring.
Almost, they were almost like apparitions in a way.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like almost like there was a separate plane of existence that these things they were just vibing. They were
they're just chilling.
And I just so happened to like
stumble upon this,
like whatever,
like a window,
whatever is separating our realm from theirs was like faded for a second. I was able to like see through it. You know what I mean? But it's like they didn't know I was there. Is how I experienced it.
Was it just whispering, like inaudible, or you could actually understand what they were saying?
I couldn't understand it. But
telling the meaning of life.
So then I remember like starting to get pretty scared. Not because of that. Like that moment kind of passed. I remember starting to get pretty scared.
Damn, Daniel's brave, bro. The first time I hear whispering, I'm like, oh shit, I'm fucked. Like that's.
But like
brave,
I said, I felt like their presence was like warm. Almost.
Oh, okay.
You know
so it was like okay.
Yeah. It wasn't, and they didn't seem to notice me. It was like I was like peeking in, you know, like what's going on, guys? Yeah. Y'all cool?
Yeah.
In that realm, but and so I remember being wrapped up in a blanket. I moved across to the love seat, and I was wrapped up in a blanket, and then all of a sudden, I felt like the blanket was actually a bear that was on top of me, and I had to throw the blanket off.
It was just heavy.
Bro, it was a bear. It wasn't just heavy. It was a bear.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you legit felt like claws, like it was just the presence of a bear.
Khabib.
the soft cloth that was
Khabib,
on me
yeah.
was bear fur, bro.
Bro.
Oh,
I had to
shit.
throw it off, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh damn. But the most intense. So there's, I ended up like closing my eyes for a second, and I was like having full on like visual hallucinations. Like I was seeing, I remember seeing there was a house. It was like I was peeking into someone else's life, but I've started to understand it differently. And there was like an old man there, right? And this old man lived with a little girl, and he wouldn't let her play. He wouldn't let her go outside. He was like a tyrant, right? And the little girl was like having to really suppress her, like girlish young girl energy. You know, you see like a young girl get super excited about stuff and it's adorable and blah, blah, blah. All of that was like suppressed and pushed down by this old man's presence. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like looking back, those are kind of like archetypal forces within my own psychology that like I have this tyrant in me that does suppress like my inner like childishness or even like femininity, right? That I like push that down, and so now I can reinterpret it. But at the time, I was just seeing an old man and a girl live in a house together and have a fucked up relationship, and that was like I full on witnessed that.
That's crazy. You still remember that too, man.
Yeah, I do.
There's meanings behind
the image of the house from the front is still clear in my mind, and the image of the old man's face is still clear in my mind. But the craziest thing that happened to me that night, and what was totally perspective changing, was I was laying down and I opened my eyes, and I was still laying on that love seat, and then there was like a shadowy figure that in my mind I was like, that's the devil, right? But I also wasn't afraid, but I knew that it was the devil. Okay? And he stood over me, directly over me. I could see him looming over me.
Holy shit.
And all he said was nothing matters.